Humans have all been swallowed into the stomachs of giant fish weighing hundreds of tons. Outside is a world with only ocean and no land. The giant fish swallows seawater containing supply boxes at intervals, flowing into the stomach of the giant fish. Once opened, people can obtain water, food, and tools or blueprints helpful for survival in the stomach. The giant fish also swallows dangerous marine creatures. Humans can only survive by continuously developing. The giant fish feeds on algae. Every time it eats, a large amount of seawater flows into its stomach. After the seawater is drained, a large amount of algae is left behind. At this point, the giant fish will stop moving. It digests the algae in its stomach. The algae slowly slide towards the digestive area of the stomach. Because I gained the ability to hear the giant fish, if I actively throw seaweed into the digestion area, it will speed up the digestion of the giant fish. The time the giant fish swims will be longer. Thus, I receive more supplies daily compared to others. This time, I will still be able to use it. I will happen to not know what caused a long wound on me. I hurriedly stepped back. Then, a series of shell slaps. The sound of flesh slapping spread out. Because my arms were constantly moving, I need to find a way quickly. Then, after taking a breath, I slowly approached the pile of seaweed. Finally, I saw the appearance of that unknown creature. Because there was an unusually large shrimp with a head. My phone was opened by something, but it seemed like it couldn't discuss anything further. At this moment, my fear began to fade, followed by anger, because I currently don't have any objects. If I don't do well, part of me won't use the big things. I still have things that I won't let go, because I can't use it. Tear off a strip of cloth. I did a simple bandage on the wound. After stopping the bleeding, I continued to move towards digestion. Because every time I arrive, I will become very small. Because there's still a big one that can't be fully, I began to use it, how to handle a large amount of it. Because I feel reluctant to kick it. If the hard shrimp shell can be completely peeled off, it can just cover my forearm. If I encounter aggressive creatures in the future, it can provide a certain level of defense. The spines on the shrimp's head can also be used as knives. Thinking of this, I decided to deal with this big shrimp. Then I picked up a piece of wood from the supply box. I swung it directly at the big shrimp. Then I struck at its weak head. I smashed it for more than 10 minutes before killing it. Then I stepped on the big shrimp. I forcefully moved my other foot towards its head. The spines were directly crushed by me. Then I picked up the spines and peeled off the shell of the big shrimp. Look at its flesh and the drool. I thought it would be great if there was fire. And I don't have the habit of eating raw meat. Especially not raw meat from this world. I definitely don't dare to eat it. At this moment, the sky began to tremble slightly. I knew the fish started to move. After placing the shrimp meat into the supply box, I glanced at the simple bandage on my arm. At this point, blood was already seeping out. I knew such a simple treatment wouldn't work. So I opened the World Trading Channel in the system interface. I checked if I could trade for medical supplies that could stop the bleeding. But most people are currently trying to exchange for food. This made me quite nervous. Fortunately, I didn't give up. After a thorough search, I finally saw information about trading medical supplies. I traded 1 bandage for 3 loaves of bread. Medical supplies are lifesavers. First come, first served. I frowned and muttered, 3 loaves of bread is too much, but my arm has started bleeding. I can't delay any longer. But now I only have 2 loaves of bread. It's not enough for a trade. So, I clicked on the trader's avatar. I decided to negotiate with him. Friend, 3 loaves is too much for 1. Is that okay? The other party quickly remained silent. No way. This is a life-saving item. Look at the trading channel. Where else are people trading supplies? What's wrong? Big brother, are you injured? I didn't plan to tell the truth, so the other party doesn't raise the price. That's not the case. It's just that I'm very crisis aware, so I like to prepare early. That's true. Big brother, you make a good point. Then I won't trade my medical bandages. I'll keep it for emergencies. Thanks for reminding me, big brother. Grandpa, friend, how about 2 loaves? Hey, big brother, you are actually injured, right? I knocked and found out. But thinking about it, it's true. It's only the 2nd day in this world. Most people are exchanging food. Only I want to exchange for unusual items. This already indicates the problem. Look at this, a bottle of mineral water. This is the only food I have left. If you don't want to trade, then I have no choice. This message is quite decisive. And indeed, if I successfully trade all my food, I only have 2 bottles of mineral water left. If today's 3 supply boxes don't open, then I can only rely on myself. Big brother, don't think so poorly of people. I'll raise the price like this. 1 loaf of bread for 1 bottle of mineral water. I'll trade with you. Seeing this message made me very happy, but it also felt a bit unrealistic. Then I'll just take what's good for me. The trade message from the other party indeed resulted in a piece of bread and a bottle of water. Without hesitation, I clicked to exchange the bread and mineral water in the supply box as they started to blink, and then they disappeared instantly. What replaced them was a roll of medical gauze. I immediately picked it up and unwrapped the cloth from the wound. I cleaned the wound with half a bottle of mineral water, enduring the pain. Only then did I manage to wrap the wound. The bleeding finally stopped. At that moment, a private message popped up on the system interface. Hey, brother. You see, I didn't take advantage of your situation. Can you tell me how you got hurt? I smiled lightly. He's a smart guy. Clearly, he wants to do me a favor. Then he learned the reason for my injury from me. After all, my stomach is surrounded by soft flesh. Then this is really difficult for me. And understanding why I got hurt is also important information. And I didn't hide it either. I directly told him about the big shrimp incident. Not long after the conversation ended, I heard the sound of seawater from the esophagus. I quickly moved the algae cultivation tank next to the esophageal diaphragm. This area receives the least impact from the seawater. Then I placed several supply boxes on top of the algae cultivation tank. The seawater barely submerged them. This way, I won't have to retrieve supplies every time. After the seawater recedes, this is now a supply box. Currently, there are only 10 portions of food left. How come all 10 portions of licorice are just materials? I need food. I only have 1 bread box left. At this moment, time is running out. The second supply box. Now this is a box. This is not food, but I was still a bit surprised. Seeds, as the name suggests, are for planting plants, but I still lack some materials. Now is not the time for me to work for a few hours. Finally, I got my last supply box. Now, this is one of my items. Give me food, please. I received an apple, 1 banana. Okay. It is indeed food. Though it's fruit, it's not as filling as bread, but it can still barely fill my supply box. Now my items. I kept echoing in my mind. I'm tired. It's time to sleep. So I followed suit and went to rest. When the giant fish moved again, I woke up as well. Now, all I have to do is wait for the crucian carp to feed. During this time, I opened the global communication channel. I checked on the status of other plants. We have no food. I only have 1 watermelon seed left. Can you help me? Just trade for a piece of bread. Watermelon. There is a seed. Right now, I don't even know. Do you still want to trade for a piece of bread? No more bread. You got it from yesterday. You only get 1 supply box a day now. Whether you get food depends entirely on luck. Most people's food supplies are running short. Now you have no seeds. The western area is not mine now. Let me think. Now I can definitely plant seeds in the planting box. So I clicked on that person's avatar. I sent a message. Can't create it at the moment. Hey bro, are you looking to trade for a watermelon seed? Yes, but I'm not trading bread for it. I'm trading raw shrimp instead. No problem. As long as it's edible, it's fine. But bro, where did you get the shrimp? The other party seemed a bit surprised. I briefly explained to him how I got the shrimp. I'm not used to eating raw meat. If I keep it, it'll spoil in a few days. So I decided to trade it for a watermelon seed. Thank you so much, bro. In the next second, the watermelon seed was traded directly. Let me go. This shrimp is really huge, bro. My name is Zhang Haitao. If you need help in the future, I absolutely won't hesitate. After saying that, I closed the system interface. Because of the time I started, I also prepared to transport, because everyone was attacked again. Today, I used the shrimp shells from yesterday's package for defense, and before each time I transported seaweed, I would be very careful to slide a few times in the seaweed. Sure enough, I encountered 3 large shrimp during this time. I actually encountered more than yesterday, but because of the sharp spikes, this time, it was very easy to deal with them. After a while, the first supply box of the day rushed into the uncertain space. I received a can of yellow peach in iron skin. I was pleasantly surprised. This is nice. It's high in sugar and can provide a lot of energy. Happily waiting for the second supply box. Zhang Haitao sent me a message. So, do you still have that sharp shrimp? I was slightly taken aback. How did you know that everyone calls it the sharp-spined shrimp in the encyclopedia? I also discovered it by accident. I immediately opened the encyclopedia. There was indeed one more species. No wonder I always encounter them hiding in the seaweed. So their food is indeed algae. But a question immediately arose in my mind. Not right. Then why haven't others encountered the sharp-spined shrimp? After deep contemplation, I thought of a possibility. Could it be that I help the crucian carp digest faster every time? So he spends much more time active than others. Thus, he swam to the area where the sharp-spined shrimp exist. It should be like that. So it seems, I've already outpaced others by a lot. But this news didn't make me happy. In fact, I was a bit worried. The distance from the spawning area is getting farther. The number of marine creatures I encounter will only increase. What if the giant fish swallows me along with an ocean creature I can't resist? That would probably be the end. Bro, the sharp-spined shrimp meat is really good. Eating it can also increase by 1.1. Then, I used the blueprint I just obtained. Then I traded for another piece of sharp-spined shrimp meat. Seeing this message shocked me instantly. The sharp-spined shrimp meat can actually increase attributes. What blueprint did you see? It's an armor blueprint. It's called the sharp-spined helmet. It seems to be made from sharp-spined shrimp, but the crafting process is together in my mind. Isn't that a coincidence? That's a perfect match. With the armor blueprint delivered to me, I immediately chose to trade. Then I quickly checked it out. The sharp-spined helmet requires complete sharp-spined shrimp. 3 cloth pieces and 5 shrimp shells are just right, but I don't have the cloth pieces yet. So I decided to see what the supply box could provide today. If I can't obtain the cloth pieces, I'll trade for 5 in the trading channel. Then I took a piece of sharp-spined shrimp meat from the supply box. I clicked on one. Then yes. I actually increased my strength by 1 by using the sharp-spined shrimp meat. After hearing the system notification, I quickly opened my character's attribute panel. My strength really increased by 1, but I didn't feel any change in my body. Then it just increased by 1, so it's not very noticeable. This still hasn't happened. Today, the second supply box rushed into the uncertain space. I received 10 stones, 10 pieces of wood. I got 10 pieces of cloth. I was delighted. The cloth pieces have arrived. Then I opened the sharp-spined helmet blueprint. I clicked to create it. 3 sharp-spined shrimp and 5 cloth pieces turned into blue light. Soon, a helmet with 3 sharp spikes on top appeared in my hand. I tried it on. I found that it fit perfectly. Then I took it off again. Carefully, I took one item at a time. I planned to take it with me when I moved the seaweed tomorrow. At that moment, Zhang Haitao sent me a message. Brother Wen, I ate the sharp-spined shrimp meat, but this time I didn't gain strength. I nodded in agreement. It seems that you only gain strength from sharp-spined shrimp meat the first time you eat it. Then Zhang Haitao's message revealed a tone of embarrassment. Brother Wen, the blueprint I traded with you earlier is quite rare. Can you add another piece of sharp-spined shrimp meat? I only had 1 to begin with. I traded 1 with you. I ate the other one myself. Maybe tomorrow if I can get another one. Then I'll give you another one. How come my sharp-spined shrimp is so valuable? Shrimp meat is more valuable, but I can't be sure if what you're saying about the shrimp head is true. What if he eats the second piece of sharp-spined shrimp meat and still gains strength points? It's not impossible for him to deliberately deceive me, so the remaining piece of sharp-spined shrimp meat, I plan to eat it tomorrow. I will only give it to Zhang Haitao if I'm sure I can't gain more from the shrimp. Not long after, the seawater surged. It surged from the esophagus. The last supply box of today has arrived. I received something I sent, making me very happy. Is it? That means I could have cooked the sharp-spined shrimp meat, but soon I dismissed that idea. No. This meat pack can only be used once. Using the only shrimp meat is a bit wasteful. It's now my 4th day in this shrimp environment. The first thing I did was cook and eat the sharp-spined shrimp meat from Zhang Haitao. He didn't lie to me after all. It truly cannot increase strength anymore. I felt slightly disappointed. I was wearing the sharp-spined shrimp helmet I made yesterday while managing the time. I was transporting seaweed, but at that moment, I unexpectedly heard the soft voice of the crucian carp. So annoying. Why are there so many of these things? They keep stealing my food. From the crucian carp's tone, it seems very angry. It should be the sharp-spined shrimp, which also eats algae, competing with it for food. It seems there will be many sharp-spined shrimp in the seaweed today. I need to be a bit cautious when transporting seaweed. Moreover, the number of fish around has significantly increased. Suddenly, the entire space shook violently, and then began to tilt. Finally, it almost stood upright. I unexpectedly fell onto the flesh. All right, the flesh is soft. I just felt a bit dizzy. No other parts were injured, but all the seawater in the algae cultivation tank spilled out. Also, the supply boxes I accumulated over these days were scattered everywhere. Then I quickly grabbed one of the supply boxes tightly because it contained canned yellow peaches and heating packs. These two valuable items must not get out. Then, my mind was filled with questions and panic. What happened? Did the giant fish get attacked by other creatures? Even though the giant fish is very large, in this unknown world, there's no guarantee it won't encounter even larger creatures attacking it. Suddenly, there was a loud thunderous bang. It penetrated the giant fish's body. Then a strong wave swept over me in the uncertain space. My head felt like it had been hit hard. My head was splitting with pain. Look, I got thrown off by my tail. Suddenly, the giant fish's voice rang out. And then I suddenly understood the cause of everything unusual. Then we were together. Then my heart relaxed. The internal space had also returned to normal. After resting for a bit, I floated the algae cultivation tank up, although there was little seawater left inside. Fortunately, the giant fish was about to feed. I would just need to refill it then. I also carried the scattered supply boxes back one by one. Splashing sounds. The giant fish began to feed. The seawater surged in. I immediately opened the system interface. I found the oxygen tank. Then I repaired it. The seawater automatically filled it. Then I began my work of transporting grass today. At the same time, I was careful not to let the sharp-spined shrimp pierce me. But after transporting everything, I was unexpectedly delighted to find there were actually 10 dead sharp-spined shrimp in the seaweed. Clearly, they were all killed by the giant fish. The sound of it whipping its tail almost scared me to death. The power is evident, and today is just the first round of feeding. I already obtained 10, so when he finishes feeding today, at least that should add up to 50 or 60. But I thought if I just stacked the sharp-spined shrimp like this, in the next round, they should be washed away by the seawater. So I thought of a solution. That is to create something similar. Then I arranged them in a V shape at the back. The triangular area in the middle is for placing sharp-spined shrimp. Anyway, I have a lot of materials. Having one more algae cultivation tank wouldn't hurt. Soon, the second round of feeding began. I piled the sharp-spined shrimp in the corner. I protected them with my body to shield against the impact of the seawater. Then I opened the blueprint for the algae cultivation tank, successfully built the second one. Then I arranged them in a V shape as planned, just enough to surround the 10 sharp-spined shrimp. I am now in this underground area of 4 units. During the feeding time, in the flowing water appeared an unidentified creature several meters long. Worse still, I didn't want the flashlight to run out of battery at this time. Without light shining on the area, the space plunged into darkness. Then the first creature jumped out of the water and pounced. I couldn't help but widen my eyes to see everything clearly, but it was in vain. The unknown fear amplified infinitely in the darkness. Suddenly, with a snap, my head was suddenly struck hard. I felt what seemed to be a creature's claw fiercely gripping my sharp-spined helmet, producing a sound of sharp object scraping. The sudden fear made me feel numb all over. My left hand holding the spike trembled uncontrollably. I kept telling myself to stay calm. Then I felt something moving in a V shape. The sticky, slippery feeling made my scalp tingle instantly. The pitch-black environment made me subconsciously think it was a large monster's tentacle. Then it started to contract. I suddenly found it hard to breathe. My face began to feel the impact. This life-threatening situation caused my adrenaline to surge instantly. The fear and numbness in my body dissipated significantly. Then, an endless fury surged as I violently swung my hand to stab the creature. I didn't care if it would slip and stab my own neck. The threatening creature let out a sharp screech, and I realized that the sound came from my head, so I wildly swung the spike upwards with my right hand. I quickly succeeded in severing that creature. The severed part thrashed wildly. A large amount of foul-smelling liquid was splattered out. It splattered all over my face. Then the limb that was wrapped around my neck also fell off. After a while, the creature was completely silent, but the claws above my head were still tightly gripped on my sharp-spined helmet. At this moment, the effects of adrenaline slowly faded away. Fear returned again. I couldn't dare to move for a moment. I waited until everything above me was gone. I saw the hands above me. At the moment the flashlight shone, I saw a severed creature's body hanging over the algae cultivation tank, dripping blood down. Then I took off my helmet. I saw 4 spear-shaped sharp teeth embedded in the helmet. Seeing the overall appearance of this creature, I broke out in a cold sweat. It didn't bite through my skull. It completely missed me, because the helmet couldn't block this creature's sharp teeth at all. The reason I was unharmed, it was entirely thanks to the 3 spikes at the top of the helmet. They created some distance between the monster's teeth and the helmet's main body. That's why the helmet wasn't bitten through. At this moment, I felt a lingering fear. Jiang Haitao really saved my life. Then I opened the biological encyclopedia section in the system interface. Indeed, I found that this creature's head measures 2 to 3 meters in length. Food type, blood description. A parasite residing within a giant organism. Its sharp teeth can easily bite through an adult's head. The teeth can be used to make tools. After reading the description, I felt increasingly fearful. I survived this time purely by luck. Then I looked at the blueprint for my helmet. The sound of surging seawater came from the esophagus. I then remembered that the giant fish hadn't finished feeding yet, so I hurriedly removed the head of the hairy worm from the helmet. I casually tossed it aside. Then I put the helmet back on, and I didn't leave the triangular space of the algae cultivation tank. Fortunately, I didn't encounter any other hairy worms until the feeding ended. I didn't meet any other hairy worms. Only then did I step out to begin transporting seaweed, picking up sharp-spined shrimp. During this time, I would periodically recharge the flashlight to ensure I had enough power for emergencies. I had encounters with unknown creatures in the darkness. I now have all the seaweed transported into the supply box. I also threw the body of the sharp-spined shrimp in to dispose of it. I counted the sharp-spined shrimp. I obtained a total of 58 today. Among them, 8 were alive. They were not attacked by the giant fish. Therefore, the shells were intact. They can be used to make the sharp-spined helmet. The remaining 50 shells were severely broken. They couldn't be used at all. So I decided to trade them in the trading channel later. Then I opened the system interface. I clicked on Jiang Haitao's avatar. I directly sent him 3 sharp-spined shrimp. I gifted him the recently made sharp-spined helmet. After a while, today's supply box has arrived, and I received iron ore, 1 copper ore, a sand powder. I was slightly surprised. I actually managed to find metal ore. Next, I prepared to trade sharp-spined shrimp meat with other survivors. I did a quick calculation. Today is my 4th day in this world. Other survivors can only obtain 1 supply box a day, including the one given by the system on the first day. I currently have only 5 supply boxes in hand. With my accelerated digestion, the distance I swim is about 3 times that of other survivors. I encountered the sharp-spined shrimp on the 2nd day, so I calculated. I guessed that someone would encounter a sharp-spined shrimp today. Thinking of this, I immediately opened the global communication channel. I saw that someone was discussing something. Wow. I wonder if anyone has encountered anything in their bodies. And there were even more people questioning below. Buddy, are you hallucinating from hunger? Clearly, only a few people have encountered sharp-spined shrimp so far. So I felt a sense of urgency rising in my heart, because in a few days, other survivors will encounter them too. By then, the value of sharp-spined shrimp will plummet. So I didn't hesitate much. So I divided the 50 sharp-spined shrimp into 5 trading methods and posted them in the trading channel. Each trading method is unique. The first method is to trade 1 sharp-spined shrimp for a piece of paper. The second method is to trade for food: 1 can, a piece of bread, and a bottle of water. Trade 1. The third method is to trade for medical supplies: 1 for 1. The fourth method is to trade for metal ores: 10 for 1. The fifth method is to trade for basic materials: 50 for 1. Then I shouted in the global communication channel, selling sharp-spined shrimp meat, visible in the trading channel. Eating sharp-spined shrimp meat can increase strength by a bit. Limited quantity, first come, first served. As soon as the message was sent, it exploded with responses. Some questioned me. Others were discussing it. Are you dumb for playing this game? Adding strength points is just stupid. I don't know if they're foolish or not, but you're really foolish. The system interface has character trading data. The purpose of this panel is to point out. Just like that. Many people began to consider whether to trade with me, or they discussed which of my 5 trading methods was more cost-effective. Soon, other survivors gradually traded with me. In no time, I successfully traded 43. The remaining 7 are all for trading blueprints. Obviously, this is primarily one type of trade. One type is first considering oneself. In 113 hours, one type has been swallowed into the second supply box. But still, no one traded blueprints, so I thought helplessly, I'll use these 7 for trading basic materials. Then I casually opened the second supply box. I received 3 bottles of mineral water. I glanced at the large amount of supplies I traded for. I chuckled to myself. Not bad, even though I have plenty of water now. Next, I checked the 3 blueprints I traded for: wooden foundation blueprint, iron dagger blueprint, sharp-spined leg armor blueprint. My attention was immediately drawn to the sharp-spined leg armor blueprint. It seems to be part of the same set as the sharp-spined helmet. I just don't know if I can complete the set. Then, I directly used all 3 blueprints. The wooden foundation blueprint requires 20 pieces of wood. The iron dagger blueprint requires 1 iron ingot, 1 wooden bucket. I was taken aback. Where can I find iron nails? Then this blueprint is something that can't be created. Then the sharp-spined shrimp requires 8 fixed 10. Although I currently have only 5 shrimp shells, I should be able to make it tomorrow. After checking the blueprints, next, I checked the food for trade: 1 tin can, 10 pieces of bread, and 10 bottles of mineral water. I don't need to worry about food for a short time. 9 medical supplies are all medical gauze. The rest is a box of anti-inflammatory medicine. I traded a total of 100 metal ores, 50 pieces of iron ore, 50 pieces of copper ore. Finally, the basic materials, a total of 500 portions. Then I prepared to make a wooden foundation. To see what it looks like, I opened the blueprint and clicked to build. Before me appeared a flat surface supported by 4 wooden stakes. I exclaimed in delight. This height is just right not to be submerged by seawater. I no longer have to worry about being soaked multiple times. These past few days, I've felt damp and sticky. While I'm happy, I'm also a bit concerned about whether the wooden foundation is sturdy enough. Will it be washed away by seawater? So I pushed hard. I found that the 4 wooden piles of the foundation seemed to be rooted together with the uncertain space and could not be moved at all. After that, I built 6 wooden foundations in a row to form a 2x3 platform, and then moved all the supply boxes onto the platform, no longer having to worry about the supply boxes being washed away by water. Then I remembered the small planting box blueprint that I couldn't build before. Is it because there is no foundation? Thinking of this, the eyes brightened. Immediately clicked to build a small planting box. Indeed succeeded. Then I planted the watermelon seeds into a small planting box. There's just no sunlight shining here. I don't know how long it takes for a watermelon to ripen. I have nothing to do next. Then directly lie on the dry wooden platform to rest for 3 hours. The third supply box has arrived. Waiting for the sea to recede, I just jumped down to open the supply box. Ding, obtained Leviathan Distance Accelerated Growth Food Illustration Fragment. I probably in this is. Then it records the types that can accelerate the growth of giant fish. However, there is currently only a fragment. Currently has no effect. The next day, when it comes to eating, I also woke up from the foundation, thinking of the scene where I was attacked by a spear-headed worm yesterday. I immediately retreated to the heaviest part of the foundation. It stands out. After carefully scanning around back and forth, I found that the water does not have traces of caterpillars moving. Immediately became loose. Then I unexpectedly appeared again. Then in the rising and falling, I am the one above. Now it's staring at me as if it's dead in the middle. After the seawater recedes, the light source surfaces. Two glowing spherical creatures appeared. I cautiously approached. Then yesterday, the material that was together moved a little. I am now gradually fading away. I instinctively stepped back a few steps in case this was some kind of attack method from that creature. But he seems to have no interest in me. Just moved the four tentacles below, refloating oneself. Then the dim body emitted again. I can't help but wonder what kind of creature this is. Then immediately opened the biological encyclopedia. Sunlight ball worm body length, 10 centimeter food type, a blood sugar parasite that glows. Nothing outstanding. Then it can be used for lighting. I'm a bit speechless. It turns out to be a parasite again. However, it is much cuter than a malhoshu. Then I suddenly thought of something. Its name is sunball bug. Does that mean it can provide sunlight for watermelon seeds? Thinking of this, I can't help but feel excited, then carefully picked it up from the ground. Then those four assistants began to dance continuously because they couldn't consume blood. The light on my body also quickly dimmed. I placed the position of the small planting box, moved the sunlight ball bug close to the stomach wall. The four tentacles immediately attached themselves, and as they have consumed the blood, it emitted light again. I secretly pray in my heart, I hope he is effective, can make watermelon seeds germinate. Another sunball bug was caught by me and placed on it. Not long after, the giant fish's first feeding is over. This time, I didn't encounter attacking creatures like the fuzzy caterpillar again. Only 5 spines under the forest. I decisively dealt with them. After moving the seaweed, I opened the world communication channel. I would like to understand the current situation of other survivors. Indeed, the vast majority of people have encountered thorny underbrush, and there is one more that is mine. Okay, it's me. I realized and pointed it out. Will moving the seaweed into the digestion pool increase the swimming distance of the giant fish? When this was said, the World Channel quickly went into a frenzy of discussion. This instantly raised a strong sense of crisis in my heart. If others also discover this method, then my leading advantage will disappear completely. Just at this moment, the first supply box of today was brought in by the sea. Ding obtained the armored Leviathan pest control advice. I was taken aback. What is this? That thing is just like a banknote, entirely golden. Then I thought of the system notification sound in my mind. Steel-armored Leviathan pest control dog after use. You can enter the body of an adult steel Leviathan to eliminate it. Not necessarily all sent out. I will return immediately. Items obtained in the closed space of the steel-armored Leviathan can be brought back. After the system prompt sound ends, I muttered a phrase. It seems that this is a ticket similar to a game dungeon. However, I am not in a hurry to use it, because with my current strength and equipment, but dealing with a fuzzy caterpillar is quite difficult. Then I continued to observe the discussions of other survivors. Now they have confirmed that actively moving seaweed can speed up the conjecture of crucian carp, but the amount of oxygen raised this way is problematic for them. Now we have confirmed the possession of algae growth grass. If I use my physical strength to carry seaweed, I will die from lack of oxygen. This is something someone suggested. My problem should have a solution. As long as I can get the blueprints for the items that produce oxygen, then this method of moving grass can be implemented. Seeing this person's remarks, I turned my gaze towards the algae growth tank in the corner behind me. After a lot of thought, I have decided to produce in large quantities, then sell at a high price. And the items exchanged must be blueprints. I want to do it before others get the drawings for the algae cultivation tank. Maximize its value. So I sent a message in the World Channel. It seems my luck is good. Good. Open a blueprint for algae cultivation. I'm going. Is it true or false? This luck is just too against the heavens, isn't it? Brother, are you selling the drawings? You can suggest any price. Only a fool would sell you. Brother, you made it. then sell it to me at a good price. That's how everyone started asking me about the price of the breeding trough. I am not in a hurry to sell. This decision is to carry out a wave of mechanical marketing first. Everyone, don't rush. I don't plan to sell today. I am still unclear about the amount of oxygen produced by this breeding. I want to test this in the next couple of days. Sell the day after tomorrow. Although I say so, but there are still a few people in private messages who want to buy from me in advance. Several hours later, the number of private messages reached over 10,000. I directly proposed the condition of exchanging withdrawings to them. So I ended up with only 8 people willing in the end. But I am still very delighted. Then, at the time close to the end of the next meal, 8 breeding tanks were made from the seaweed left in the stomach, successfully traded for 8 drawings. Not long after, the second supply box has been delivered in. Ding obtained a sweet potato seed. At this moment, I feel even better, because seeds are the things that can reliably ensure the source of food. So I built a small planting box again, paid half a bottle of water, then I started to eat and drink heavily. In my food is sufficient. There is no need to go hungry. This is a private message that was sent over. Hello, my name is Chen Xin. It is about proposing to transport seaweed in the World Channel. Here it comes. Can I exchange a grass cultivation machine? After reading this message, I get up directly. It turns out he is the instigator who might end my leading advantage. How dare you come to find me? Sorry, no such idea. If there is no reply of giving up, I trade with you using a blueprint. I can still refuse to trade, no matter what is needed. But he still doesn't give up. I know you want to take this opportunity to get ahead of others, but in this unknown world, I am not a good person when I am alone. This WeChat you got up, although I can't directly help by myself, but we can also remind each other to prepare. Looking at his message, I began to ponder. Indeed, when I encountered a caterpillar before, I just clicked a little. I am a reminder for myself in advance. I can also get up early. Now I feel dead. I really don't want to use it anymore. Just like that, I was persuaded by him. Okay, you make a lot of sense. I will trade you a machine. Happy cooperation. Mr. Zhao, after the transaction comes over. I opened it and took a look. It is a weapon with decent value. Today the crucian carp's feeding has already ended. I plan to take a break as well. Before bed, I glanced at the small planting box that I have been thinking about. It has actually sprouted. I instantly showed a surprised green light ball on my face, and the moss ball can indeed replace sunlight. But with another problem arising. I am now, after all, a parasite that sucks the blood of crucian carp in my mind. If collecting too much will definitely harm the crucian carp, so I decided to keep only 10 in the future. Kill all the excess. Waking up the next day, I was surprised to see that the sprouted watermelon seedlings have already grown to more than 10 centimeters. The sweet potato has also grown 5 to 6 centimeters. I was instantly overjoyed. Food will soon be self-sufficient. Next, I put on the spiked helmet, then use 8 portions of spiky shrimp shells and 10 portions of cloth pieces. Then I have a spiked leg armor. Then I open the 8 sets of traps traded yesterday. There are actually 4 sharp spiky sets of equipment for monitoring sharp spikes and sharp shoulder pads. Spiked groin guard. Then the next thing on my face was revealed. Then I looked at the materials needed to manufacture these drawings. The spiked suit has no issues. It should be possible to spike everything out soon. Then I still had 14 households left, so I decisively made the spiked groin guard and spiked boots. Then I equipped 4 pieces of gear. I can clearly feel that my body is a bit heavy. Let me realize a problem. If we add the other 2 pieces of equipment that haven't been made yet, I estimate that my body won't be able to handle it directly. Then I open the character attribute panel. The normal values of various attributes of everyone displayed above are at the beginning, and my strength is obviously heavy. In other words, wanting to smoothly put on a complete set of equipment. Then I figured out a way to increase it a bit. I roughly calculated it. At least need to raise the power attribute to 15 points. Not long after, it still surged in. The first supply of today is coming. Suddenly, I don't know what something rushed by underwater. Stir up a string of head flowers on the water surface. Then, after I made the reflective spotlight and the spiked platform, I looked for the shadow of biology. At this moment, my expression is extremely serious. I originally thought that giant fish would only have organisms brought in by seagrass during the feeding stage. Now it seems, when the giant fish swallows the supply box, there will also be biological protection. Then my things seem to not attack me. On the contrary, it is in the eager desire to leave this cramped space. After a period of time, the seawater has all receded. I saw a 1-meter-long light band bouncing continuously on the ground. Until not long after, it seems to have lost its strength. The light gradually dimmed, so I carefully walked over. Arrest him, not very heavy, about 20 to 30 pounds. Then I opened the biological encyclopedia. The body length of the shrunk fish is 1 meter. Introduce smooth epidermis, very fast in water. If hit, severe cases can injure the internal organs. Meat is firm and elastic. Fish skin can be used to make diving suits. Looked at the introduction. I am fortunate that it is thanks to the strength I have already created. If hit by it in the water, the consequences are unimaginable, and I know that this fish can be used. This makes me feel a bit anxious. What is most needed now is to increase strength. Then I used a pointed dagger to turn it into sashimi. This is the sound of the system here. Edible soaked skin pike fish. Physical fitness +1. Speed +1. I am overjoyed. Unexpectedly added 2 attributes. Although it is not the strength I long for, but if it can combine the 2 attributes, I am still very happy that this was sent to me here. I thank you for the spikes and helmet you gave me a couple of days ago. I just took a picture of the recipe. Our eyes suddenly lit up, because that is the formula for making fertilizer. How timely. With fertilizer, it can accelerate the growth of food in the planting box. Reach a place of food self-sufficiency as soon as possible. Low-grade fertilizer production formula. Making in the compost bin now. Now do 5 portions of grass carp fish feces. I have a compost bin and licorice. Where to find fish feces? Can feces be obtained in the digestion pool? Thinking about this point, I suddenly remembered the drawings of the dung shovel that I obtained before. Then suddenly understood. The poop scoop should be used to remove the digested fossilized fish feces. I decisively made it like feces. Then I added the fat with licorice. Arrived at the digestion pool side, the feces scoop was thrust inside. When it is pulled out, the round barrel at the end is filled with green viscous liquid. This should be the feces of the giant fish. Then I will pour it all into the compost bin. The smell is indeed a bit. I hurriedly picked up the lid of the compost bucket and covered it. The next step is the time after the fertilizer is successfully made while quietly waiting. After I make the weapon blueprints traded from the dawn, much more useful. Then I hung the nearly crispy fish on the trading channel. Want to trade for relatively rare blueprints. Then I produced a large amount of algae. After it has grown, the basic materials exchanged that came out later. Most people have recognized it by now. Some people are even speculating whether I have received some kind of cheat. How to have so many advanced supplies. After that, I handed over the spiky scales and shells of the transaction today. Successfully crafted spiked chest armor. The weight is about 40 pounds. Can be heavy, but must wear. At least it can protect the body. Before going to bed, I checked the situation inside the planting box. The discovered watermelon seeds have now grown into vines. This makes me very happy. I have now been here for 2 hours. I opened the lid of the compost bin at the first opportunity. A pile of dark green poop buckets flew out directly from inside. I was so scared that I hurriedly dodged. Then a prompt echoed in my mind. After obtaining low-level materials for items, I have shortened the growth time by another 10%. I have something on my face. Then decisively brought over a supply box. Without any care, reached out and put in 8 portions. Then some of the later soil immediately melted into pus. The green liquid seeped directly into the soil. This should be a successful test flight, quite convenient. Not long after, the sound of surging seawater comes from the esophagus. The giant fish has started feeding. I hurriedly held the fishbone knife in my hand. Half Squat has entered a tense state. Prevent potential dangers that may be encountered next. Suddenly, the surface of the water suddenly surged. A flesh-colored strip-shaped body that made my heart race appeared in front of me. Another hairy-headed worm. My heart suddenly trembled. This thing almost cost me my life before. Every time I think back, I still have lingering fears. The emotion of fear surged again. My hand holding the fishbone knife is trembling involuntarily. Mainly, my physical strength is gradually catching up with my. Then maintained a half-squat position in a state of readiness. Time passes very slowly. Finally, the water level has started to drop. Indicates that the meal has already ended. Next, just wait until everything is expelled from the body. I will be much safer. Just when I breathed a sigh of relief, the surface of the water suddenly exploded. Today is the 7th day since I came to this world to survive. I have once again encountered an attack by the Maltorutung, and there are still two, one with its mouth wide open. Stretch out the teeth of 4 caterpillars. Although it was startled, but soon calmed down, because the 3 spikes on the top of the spiked helmet once again blocked his breath. Then I swung the fishbone knife in my hand without hesitation. I am just on the fishbone in front of me. This time's weapon is much stronger than the last spear. A knife plunged into half of the body. Then a large amount of disgusting liquid flowed out. The sharp screams came from above. I am not moved. Wave the fishbone again, and just as it is about to be completely cut off from its body, the surface of the water erupted with another loud bang. Another spear-headed worm's teeth suddenly bit my spike. The legs and feet are then a big together. And the spearhead worm at the top also exerted force together. Directly dragged me horizontally into the water. I am extremely shocked in my heart. Want to surface and breathe oxygen, but the head and legs are pulling with great strength. And I am also wearing a 100-kilogram spiked undergrowth suit. It makes it even harder for me to surface. Time passes little by little. The feeling of suffocation is becoming stronger. In such a desperate situation, I know I can only give it my all. Then the heart became resolute, used all of his strength. The fishbone blade of the right hand fiercely cut the hair-headed worm on the head. I don't know if it's because he has already been seriously injured, just cut it twice. He then let go of my head. I feel a joy in my heart. Carelessly discarded the fishbones. Recognize and then vigorously wave both hands to slowly lift the body out of the water. Then it's about breathing oxygen madly. But immediately, another hairy caterpillar violently dragged me back into the water. Suddenly poured a few mouthfuls of seawater into me. Then I resurfaced again after struggling desperately just now. But as soon as I just coughed, I was dragged into the water again. I started like this with ups and downs, constantly flapping both arms. I know that as long as that injured fuzzy caterpillar doesn't attack me now, then I can entangle this procrastination that is wrapped around my thigh. As long as we wait for the sea to recede, it's when I fight back. Finally, the seawater has all been photographed, and then the caterpillar is gone, already completely unable to drag it. Only those 4 ship-shaped teeth are still biting my leg. Fortunately, the defense of the leg armor blocked its sharp remarks. This also makes me completely put my mind at ease. After knowing that safety has been guaranteed, a wave of fatigue instantly enveloped my understanding. Then I searched for that chopped fuzzy caterpillar. But as soon as I saw this, I was completely energized. Because that injured hairy caterpillar was actually lying on the ground sucking the blood of the giant fish. I immediately exclaimed, "Then I don't know where it came from." Then my leg on. Then the fishbone that I just threw away. With a few strokes, he killed the fuzzy caterpillar by his leg, then quickly came to the front of the one that was sucking blood. Chopped several times in succession, finally chopped him to death. The blood of a slightly smaller fish is also that of a green caterpillar. And then the head of the worm has such a big mouth. If it keeps sucking it in, what will happen? I carefully pried the teeth that were adsorbed on the micro wall down. Then I saw a round blood hole appear on the stomach wall. I was so angry that I kicked his head to the side with one kick. The current problem is how to stop the bleeding of the giant fish. Suddenly, I had a flash of inspiration, thought of using sunlight ball bug. Then I hurriedly climbed onto the foundation, grabbed a sunball bug. Then it was fastened over the blood hole. Then I saw the 4 small tentacles tightly adhering to the wall of the stomach nearby, and sealed the blood hole tightly. I am very happy in my heart. This method actually succeeded. This moment, all crises have been resolved. The overwhelming sense of exhaustion surged back again, but I still can't rest now, because the stage of eating has not yet ended. The next wave of seawater is about to come. At this moment, I'm thinking that this spiky outfit is very heavy, but it has been well protected in the air just received. This is our importance, which goes without saying. This is my. This distance has quite a high time. I don't need to observe at all. I can completely hide directly. Wait until the seawater completely recedes. Just observe if any organisms come in. As for the hiding place, naturally made algae growth tank from stones. Later, when I first encountered the water scorpion in the water, it is only by standing in the corner space formed by the algae growth tank that I was able to block the spear-headed worm from attacking me underwater. This way I am algae growth grass moved onto the wooden platform. This also leads to the space on the foundation being severely compressed. There is only a 6 square meter area. There is currently only about 2 centimeters of active space left. And this moment, I also seem to have exhausted my last bit of strength, but not unusually tired. Simply has no energy to go down and carry seaweed. After a period of time, the giant fish is feeding again. I will hide behind the algae breeding tank as planned, also not caring about what is in the water. Started eating the canned food directly. Kept hiding until the entire eating phase was completely over. This is what unexpected situation I encountered. At this moment, I have finished eating the canned food that is quite high in sugar, plus having rested for so long. Therefore, the energy has recovered a lot. After it was finally confirmed that no large organisms were present, I just walked down, moved with peace of mind. All right, 2 hours later, the seaweed finally got up. I don't have a place with a little space. There's nothing above. There are 3 hours until the next meal. At this moment, Chenxing sent me a private message. Mr. Zhao, I want to exchange something with you. I have no good feelings towards this person. Plus, it's already very tiring. Then reply directly. If you want a second algae cultivation tank, then it will be necessary to trade with me using blueprints. Heh, Mr. Zhou, you want to cultivate algae growth tanks incorrectly. I want 20 sets of complete spiked scale armor equipment. I was directly amused to the point of anger. Then, am I mentally deranged? Nonsense. Mr. Zhou, why not take a look at the things I want to trade with you first? Golden silk fruit, golden silk grass, roughly sown seeds. After use, you can add 5 points of strength. After reading this message, I suddenly felt a surge of strength throughout my body. This is exactly what I currently need at my limit. With this little strength, I can easily handle this heavy spiked box on my body. It is currently the 7th day since I came to this world. I have obtained a complete set of equipment made from spiked scales, but together they weigh as much as 100 kilograms. This makes it very burdensome for me, who has a low power attribute, to wear it. So I traded for a plant called golden seaweed on the World Channel. The food that is served has a little bit added after eating. This is what I urgently need right now. Then I opened the seaweed cultivation blueprint that I had traded for before. Click to create. A herbivore appeared in front of me that was twice the size of an algae breeding tank. 2 hours later, when it is time to swallow the second supply box today, the seaweed planting box automatically fills with seawater. Then I carefully planted the golden seaweed inside the pile of lions. Then I opened the supply box. Obtain equipment, blue one. I was suddenly taken aback. Then I saw the prompt for the character's attribute panel appear. After opening it, I found that there was an additional power on the interface. Then a small equipment bar echoed in my mind. You can store an equipment or a weapon in it. I was instantly overjoyed. Then try to put on the heaviest spiked chest armor on your body. After a burst of blue light, the spiked armor instantly disappeared from my body, appeared in the equipment bar. Then another thought came to my mind. The spiked chest armor has appeared again, and I can't help but admire it. This equipment is really a good thing, and it should be possible to obtain it multiple times. After that, wait for the next supply box to arrive within 3 hours. I continue to make algae growth tanks continuously. Take the basic materials to trade on the World Trading Channel. Currently, other survivors already know, if one cannot produce oxygen independently, Then moving seaweed will help when there is a lack of oxygen and die during digestion. So I trade a very large number every day. Therefore, my basic materials are about to fill the more than 20 supply boxes in my hands. This makes me very distressed. What should be done with the remaining supplies? It is not the distance that brought today's third supply box. Due to obtaining the locker blueprint, I was stunned for a moment. Then comes the ecstasy. Simply, heaven helps me. Then decisively use the locker blueprint. 20 pieces of wood needed for the production of locker blueprints. Great. The materials required are not much. I immediately clicked to create. 20 pieces of wood immediately flew out from the supply box. Transform into blue light, formed a height of 2 meters in the air, a wooden cabinet 1 meter wide, according to the introduction in the drawing. There are 100 spaces inside the locker. Each can stack 100 units of supplies. In other words, a storage locker can hold 10,000 basic supplies, and the current basic materials I have only occupy more than half of the space of a 3,000-plus storage cabinet. The most important thing is that the locker takes up a small area. After placing it properly, after I immediately transferred all the items from the 22 supply boxes inside, through the box into the digestion pool. On the 8th day of coming to this world, I just got up and went to check on the condition of the golden seaweed. There is no change in the feeding trough. I am a little disappointed. However, it was also expected. The golden silk fruit is something that can increase strength by 5 points. The growth time is definitely longer than that of other crops. Then I came to the front of the small planting box. Just surprised to see that flowers have already bloomed on the watermelon vines. At this pace, it probably won't take long. I am now at our watermelon. The main thing is that the food in the supply box is basically just dry bread every day. Occasionally, there will be a small amount of fruit and canned goods, but I don't eat it. So these days I've been eating so much bread that I'm about to throw up. Then couldn't help but mumble, when can the food be improved? I really hope to have salty food right now. In these few days, whether it is the body's demand for salt, still the taste buds' craving for saltiness, all of them make me occasionally reminisce about the delicious food I once had. A few hours later, the end of eating today, I check the distance from the current state, Illusory Leviathan age, evaluation of the body length of 35 meters during the birth stage of the 9 heavens phase. A 220-ton little baby. I didn't expect that in just 8 days, the distance has already increased by 5 meters. This is what I gave him. Will he grow up faster? Thus swim further. Currently, others already know that transporting seaweed can help crucian carp digest. Therefore, now I am leading but the others behind me also started to keep the same pace as me. Then the world of survival. Then I will continue to expand my leading advantage. So I made the second storage cabinet directly without saying a word. Then acquired 10,000 shares of low-value gourmet food in the World Channel. Then I put it inside. Only then did I fall asleep in a good mood. Awakening again, it is already the 9th day since I came to this world. Something incredibly terrifying has appeared on the World Channel. The number of survivors in the upper right corner has started to decrease continuously. At the beginning, the number was tens of tons. Then it starts with tens of thousands dying every second. So I pondered and calculated the time. This should be when others start to consecutively encounter the hairworm. The people who have survived so far have also paid a considerable price for food. Then they all started asking in the World Communication Channel how I got through the crisis. Seeing this news, I immediately brightened my eyes. This is the moment I've been waiting for. Then I had Zhang Haitao spread gourmet food on the World Trading Channel. The spiked helmet can effectively resist the actions of spearhead worms on the head. At that moment, the channel was like a pot that had exploded. Then start the rivers and seas roaring. And at this moment, I lent him the blueprint for the spiked helmet, and let him help me produce and trade in large quantities every day. And the required for the transaction is 100 units of basic materials, or 10 portions of food or mineral water. If the basic materials are insufficient, metal ores can also be converted. Once again, I significantly expanded the inventory and gave some to Zhang Haitao. And when the second batch of supplies arrives today, I opened it and unexpectedly received a packet of instant noodles, braised beef flavor. I was instantly overjoyed. Finally can eat food with filling flavor. For the current living environment, this is braised beef noodles. I'm just grilling meat. Then I was on the supply box. I filled it with water inside. Then found a disposable heating pack obtained a few days ago. Place it steadily at the bottom to heat. Cut the meat of the sharp-spined shrimp into slices and put it in. I spent some time today making some past, unbelievably happy to have a hot pot meal. Spent the happiest day since coming to this world. And on the 10th day, an unexpected event occurred again. The supply box unexpectedly did not flow in at the usual fixed time. And I waited for another hour, but there was still no response. And the other survivors have already obtained some things. I'm going to get up again and again. This indicates that only I have a problem, so I eagerly began to think about the reason. Just at this moment, the diaphragm of the esophagus suddenly opens. I feel invigorated. Quickly looked over, thought the supply box finally arrived. But the entrance of the esophagus did not surge with seawater like every time before. My mind suddenly became chaotic. What is going on here? It has never appeared before. Suddenly, the giant fish's heart reappeared in my mind after a long absence. I'm not easy. Why hasn't the little person in that child's place come out yet? I was suddenly startled. I never expected that he actually knew all along that I was stored in his stomach. And now I also want some things all the time. R1 won some things, but my heart couldn't help but feel tense. So many days have passed. This is still the first time I'm about to see the unknown world outside. Going out without understanding anything is obviously very dangerous. But since the giant fish clearly told me this is a whole cave, so I have to go on this trip. So I first made a wooden shield and put it in the equipment slot. Then found the headlamp obtained from the previous transaction and put it on. Then put on the spiked armor. Holding a fishbone knife in hand. Everything is ready. Then slowly entered the esophagus. It's pitch black inside. I circled around the meat wall, following the light of the headlamp. The upper and lower diameters of the esophagus are approximately 1.5 meters. I need to bend over to get through. But because of the line of sight on the ground, I am very careful when I walk. I am at the entrance of 7 or 8 meters. The space in front of me suddenly became clear in the time that just passed, but the same piece of darkness. However, I am not afraid, because I know that the current position is in the mouth of the giant fish. The safest place in this world is inside its body. After walking forward for 5 or 6 meters, I saw a white wall that surrounded like a meat brush. Reached out to touch at close range. The entire wall is made up of long whiskers, but not like a bristle brush. Then I will just be one of the. I am just used for the virtual and real of the green stone. To go out, you must first climb over this illusory wall. It doesn't seem very high, only 2 meters. I climbed up after just a little bit, but what is in front of us is a piece of rock. Then I groped along the rock wall in this place. Finally, I discovered a cave with a diameter of only 1 meter. The pitch-black oppressive environment made my heart race. This should be the entrance to a cave, but our space is also in. Yes, I can crawl forward in this ring. When encountering danger, I'm afraid even turning around will be very difficult. But then I thought again. Forget it. The bigger the waves, the more expensive the fish. Want to live in this world. Facing danger is also necessary. I remember the previous dozens of meters that I know there has never been a stable way to live in this world. But the hole I was walking in suddenly broke and drilled into the cave. The interior of the cave is still entirely made up of rock. I am crawling on the ground. Place the wooden shield at the front. In case of encountering an attack from some monster, just climbed about 10 meters or so. My forehead is already soaked with sweat. After climbing for more than 10 meters again, I found that the surroundings became increasingly humid. The ground has started to accumulate water. The more people climb in, the more they climb. The higher the water surface, even directly occupies half of the cave space. I feel even worse now. The body is soaked in water, yet must raise its posture high. How much it hurts as much as it can. The important thing is that I don't know there won't be anything remarkable in the Tao. I am now everything is here. I hurriedly reached out with my hand and saw a half-transparent slime. I quickly shake off what makes me feel nauseous. Suddenly, there was something underwater from my arm. I was so scared that I jumped. I saw a very loud sound, the continuous echo in this study. I forcibly calmed my emotions. Murky water accumulation, plus the light intensity is not high, but I can't see the situation underwater at all. So I looked up at the thing that was down. I'll take a look at my above kind of mud. Overall, it looks like something left behind by a certain creature crawling over it, but I still endured the nausea and continued forward. Just as we continue to delve deeper, those things are becoming more and more. Even the ground under my subordinates has it. I can't use my skateboard with my feet right now. This caused my crawling speed to slow down. I even fell into the water several times afterwards, so I decided to just take a break first. You can rest for a little longer. I just saw the things below. I am at the come. I hurriedly turned my head. The source of the crawling sound. Finally saw a flat, soft-bodied creature at the top. It is completely transparent. You can see that there is 21 inside the internal organs. My body surface can't do it. I have no my place. It's just that I keep coming down from the side. Then go to the next one. I no longer pay attention to him. Almost done resting. Also need to continue moving forward. But just at this moment, the surface of the water ahead suddenly stirred up large waves. This suddenly made my heart, which had just calmed down, feel suspended. Look at this situation. Obviously, some kind of large creature is rushing towards me quickly. Next second, the heavier waves crashed into me. This time, it almost knocked me over directly. I know that large creature is coming soon. Thus, Starmaster has already mentioned the throat. Suddenly, a terrifying impact forcefully struck the wooden shield. I simply couldn't stop my whole body from moving backward, and at the same time, I also bumped my head. Has always been blank. A sudden, urgent situation. I forgot the pain of the body. But his terrifying fishbone knife stabbed fiercely out from the edge of the shield. But then I heard a ding sound. The giant creature emitted a crisp sound of hard objects colliding. I thought it was over. The fishbone knife obviously cannot deal with this giant creature. It seems his head is as hard as a rock. And the giant creature seemed to be aware that my shield is playing a protective role, so he began to spin wildly. A huge rumbling sound echoed inside the body cave, and the wooden shield also emitted a sound of being torn. At this moment, my heart has sunk to the bottom of the valley. It's like carrying a lamb, clearly understanding the wooden shield. As long as there is doubt, it is my death sentence. In a moment of desperation, I hurriedly sent a message to Zhang Haitao. River and sea waves. Quick, give me a wooden shield. At the same time he said nothing, quickly made and sent over. Thus I put down the fishbone knife. The right hand also holds up the shield. Thinking that now I can only compete in endurance with this giant creature. After all, he can't keep spinning forever. But I can always ask Zhang Haitao for a wooden shield. Even so, I still feel that vitality is generally clear. A wooden shield also requires strength. I don't think my strength can compete with that of giant creatures. Time passes little by little. Wooden shield lost more than a dozen. I am also exhausted to the extreme. I have no strength left to hold the shield anymore. At this moment, I feel death is near. But there is no feeling of fear, because these are all chosen by me. Kakaka. The wooden shield is completely shattered. I finally saw the complete appearance of that giant creature. It occupies 80% of the entire cave. The overall appearance looks like a worm. A sharp triangular bone cone grew on the shell of the head. It followed me with more than a dozen shields through the rotating drum. Then, I saw that the cocoa split in the middle, revealed the hidden mouth of life. It has sharp teeth inside. I have finally accepted my fate at this moment. Stop resisting. I feel that what I am staying in is a kind of clarity. My organism is about to bite my body. A huge roar invaded the entire cave. Even intense tremors occurred. Next second, the voice of the giant fish unexpectedly rang out. You little bug is real. I am blocking the road. Don't let my little one come. The giant worm suddenly retracted its terrifyingly fierce mouth from the back with a thudding motion. Then it was sent to the same one, shaking all over. But my current state is not good either, because the waves formed by my heart shape are too strong. I pierced through my body. This makes me feel dizzy. The brain has started to develop, slowed down for a while. I carefully looked at the triangle in front of me. I am standing there in a daze. Don't move. Then I just got up and up and up and up. A heavy sudden contraction of the body, disappearing without a trace in the next second. I can't help but feel it somewhat ridiculous, for the 40-meter-long giant has risen. I am just a little hammer. I finally let out a heavy sigh, leaning against the rock wall to take a rest. Afterwards, through the system interface, I asked Jiang Haitao for the entire body's physical recovery. I picked up the wooden shield again and continued to crawl forward. I am more than 30 meters behind. I just arrived one by one. I crawled 30 on my right hand's I. Suddenly became much more spacious. I can even stand up directly now. Then I cautiously turned around. Discover that this is an elliptical space. There is a puddle of water right in the middle, and there was actually a supply box in the accumulated water. I was suddenly delighted, finally seeing a return. Then I quickly took it out. Directly open ding. Get 20 points for glass. My expression immediately turned to disgust. Although glass is indeed a very rare material, until now, I still haven't seen anyone captured on the World Channel. The problem is that I still don't have a material made of glass. However, I also do not have what I have. I still have one now. Some have, some have, some have, some have, some have. Then I also returned to a fork in the road, entered a mole. This time I climbed a distance of 50 meters. I actually encountered myself once again. I complained softly. Once again chose the right side. After climbing more than 30 meters, I once again entered an elliptical space. Sure enough, there is another supply box inside. Obtain a certain 5, I was instantly overjoyed. I originally thought that it definitely needed to be smelted from iron ore, but not necessarily. The oxygen in the space is limited. Then this iron ore is simply impossible. I didn't expect to directly obtain the previous iron dagger now. The drawings are definitely one of the types of materials used for production. After confirming that there is nothing else around, I sent both supply boxes to Jiang Haitao for calculation, then returned again to one intersection after another. Then there is a matte surface, and this time it is particularly long. I climbed nearly 200 meters before finally climbing into a spacious area. And this space is obviously different from the previous two. However, the ground in the middle is still very clear. Not only that, there is a cave behind the space. It seems that we can still continue to explore. I first arrived at the center of this space. Same as this, there is still a supply box here. However, I am not inside. Then placed on a rock platform, and this supply box is also inlaid with gold edges. My eyes suddenly lit up. Wow! I still have one thing that is definitely not simple. I slowly open the supply box with an excited heart. Get the blueprint for a small aquarium. Iron sword blueprint. Fishbone armor blueprint. At this moment, my excitement is beyond description. Unexpectedly took 3 drawings. Then, I opened the drawing section of the system interface to take a look. The small aquarium blueprint requires 10 pieces of stone, 10 portions of glass, very sandy. 3 iron ingots are needed for the iron sword. A piece of wood, fishbone armor requires several large fish bones, 100 parts of golden silk seaweed fiber, fish fat 50 portions, 100 portions of silk. After watching, I was stunned. The first 2 drawings are fine, because I need the me. I don't have any. No, it's not useless. However, especially the big knife blueprint, it can be said to be the strongest weapon at present. The fishbone knife in my hand clearly cannot compare to this iron weapon. Moreover, many people currently have never seen the last fishbone armor blueprint. The materials needed for production have made me feel unwell. Except for golden seaweed, I have no issues with the other several materials. However, I don't know that I don't have. I just won't 11 them. However, I am not falling behind. And some people like this suit of armor because its appearance is too cool. And its defensive power must be astonishing. After all, it is made with the strength of large fish bones, not the suit I am currently making from shrimp shells. Can be better than yours. I do not know if I decide to continue to testify. After sending the golden resource box to Jiang Haitao again, I drilled into another cave of this space. This time I only climbed about 50 meters before entering a space. However, I saw there is one. I don't know if there are any drawings for this. A deer antler coral was found in the central position. It is blood red all over. A layer of thinness is floating around. I don't really know what it is. However, I decided to use my phone for a moment. However, the drawings I cannot unlock. I'll take a look at the information about this coral. So I have my abnormality on the blood red coral. I then open the biological encyclopedia. Sure enough, it has been updated inside, and it has also unlocked 2 types of organisms. The first one is called gel worm, body length 10 centimeters, weight 200 grams, a soft-bodied creature with very strong regenerative abilities. The body can produce hemostatic gel. I feel a joy in my heart. This gel worm should be the kind of flat, soft-bodied creature seen before. It can actually produce hemostatic gel. I must catch a few to take back when I leave. So I looked at the second unlocked biological waste ruin coral worm, body length 3 millimeters, then 0.5 grams of food type blood. Small organisms living in groups on the ruins of coral can produce wastewater powder. I have some doubts. What is this ruins powder for? I'm not sure about the specifics either. However, no matter what, I will take it all back. How do I take it back? I let myself go to this mountain. I left the water of the lake. Then I thought of something not good. That is asking Zhang Haitao for the stone, sand and glass. Open the drawing interface. Click to create a small body. Next, I will fill the inside with clear seawater. Put the coral inside. Then I want to give it to the Zhanghu. Then I went there. I will continue to move forward after I. There is a cave behind this space. I started to crawl continuously with a hopeful heart, but not long after, I discovered something different. There are actually 5 forks in this cave. I had a hard time all of a sudden. How can this be chosen? Under helpless circumstances. I still chose the one on the far right. I don't know how long it has been. I suddenly feel a breeze coming from ahead. I was instantly surprised. There's wind. That means the exit is just ahead. Then immediately increased the speed. After more than 10 meters, I finally crawled out of the cave. Then I came out in my that. I came out. Ha ha ha. Can't crawl in the cave for so long. The oppressive feeling of the space with that dark nose made me feel somewhat desperate for a while. After being happy, I immediately don't want it at all. Then, this is what I didn't go to see. Go to the starry sky. I was completely stunned. I did not return to one there. I have been in this world for 10 days. This is still the first time I see the outside world. Although it is evening at this moment, but the sea surface is not dark, because there are actually 10 moons in the sky, 9 light blue, deep blue ones, and this blue moon is very large, covered most of the sky. At this time, the voice of the giant fish echoed in my mind. Little person, how did you run outside? Very dangerous. Come back quickly. I was startled. The sound of the giant fish sounds like together. Obviously, in my opinion, I am really too fragile. Staying alone in the outside world is very unsafe, and I am also very obedient. Immediately return to the cave. Start climbing back. Can climb for a while. I encountered 2 forks in the road. I am completely confused. I really can't find the way back. The voice of the giant fish echoes again. Little person, what happened? There is still something on the right that hasn't been picked up. My confused expression suddenly turned into surprise. It seems that the giant fish should be able to sense the situation inside the cave. Then I can follow the path it guides me. It is my side. After that, whenever I encounter little crucian carp, it will emit a voice of doubt. Then I crawled according to his instructions. After 4 or 5 forks in the road, I finally entered a space again. Here is piled up with 2 shapes of mud. I grabbed a lump with my hand. Then the system prompt sound started. Ding! Obtain 1 point of the dung of the Dunian worm. Waiting for a moment of silence, then hurriedly threw it away. Then continue to search around for the voice of the crucian carp just now. Clearly stated, this is the place where the last treasure is placed. But I searched for a long time and didn't find anything else. Besides mud, it's just mud. However, these are all arrived. I think it makes sense one by one. I am arriving right now. I am here. My bug's poop can make the plants I grow in my stomach grow faster. So I asked Zhang Haitao for some cavities, supply box and a shovel. Put that lump of feces inside. Now there is only the highest pile of manure in the middle left. As long as it's finished digging it, I can go back into the belly of the giant fish. I will dig after I have a good rest. But the small mountain gradually collapses. Suddenly, I saw something different. The top of the small mountain is actually reflecting a bright, sparkling light. I was startled in my heart. There are actually treasures buried inside, so I immediately accelerated the digging speed until the entire small hill becomes a small mound of mud. I finally see clearly that thing is a plant with a very peculiar appearance. About half a meter high, 3 teeth split from the trunk. A few crystal-formed leaves have grown on top. The flashing above looks very beautiful. The tip of the branch is hanging a fruit that looks like a stone. I have no idea what this is like. I am my one a little. I arrived there. It is just a little. I am my 111 is my. A prompt sound appeared in the middle. Obtain a rock fruit. I was taken aback. This stone is actually the fruit of a tree. Since it is a fruit, then it should be edible. I do this. I open my mouth to taste. I hesitated for a moment. Still asked Zhang Haitao for a bottle of mineral water. I only planned to take a bite after washing it a bit. After all, there are rock bugs everywhere here. I will continue with a real-time one, then bite down hard, but only heard a click. I am the one who unexpectedly has different rock fruit behind me. I only have a shallow layer of pulp, my white one. Then I thought about it afterwards. It should be food like nuts. Below I 11111 down. I arrived there and used a little more strength. I am the back of 11111, revealing the crystal clear pulp. There are white fruits in the middle. The overall image is almost the same as a lychee. I gently bite it again after putting it in my mouth. I arrived in the middle for a moment. The following strength increase, physique increase, speed increase 1. My eyes suddenly lit up. Then once all my is I am 1, A1 is 1. I don't know if this stone fruit can repeatedly increase attributes, so I picked another one and smashed the shell. However, I didn't have much hope when eating. Because of the days spent coming to this world, I have never obtained food that cannot repeatedly increase character attributes. Gain power +1, constitution +1, speed +1. At this moment, I am completely stunned and frozen. Unexpectedly really added attribute points repeatedly. Then I eagerly reached out to pick the last one and ate it again. Let's see if we can continue. In an instant, I hesitated again. This rock fruit should be plantable. The growth conditions should be required to be in this kind of middle. Then you can return to this place. Then it can produce more food through planting. So I gave up the idea of eating it. Put it in your pocket. Well, I dug out the feces from those plants' pile. Then all my boxes were sent to Zhang Haitao for storage. At this moment, this treasure hunt in the cave has been successfully completed. After that, I continued to follow the hints of the giant fish in my mind, precisely passed through one intersection after another. During this period, I also conveniently caught 10 gel worms. Finally, I climbed back to the hole I came from. The pitch-black environment made me certain that I had returned to the mouth of the giant fish. At this moment, the heart that I have always held in suspense has finally been put down. Then I put the armor into the equipment slot, passed through the stone cave with ease, returned to the uncertain space. Then look at a few holes around. I have a feeling as if I am in a different world. Suddenly, the voice of the giant fish echoed. The little person has finally returned. Can sleep now. I'm so sleepy. Immediately, the entire uncertain space began to vibrate. Finally, started the activity. It should be looking for a suitable place to rest. I smiled faintly, feeling exhausted, because it is not yet time for me to sleep. Next, I will retrieve everything I have stored with Zhang Haitao. Then plan to dig out the rock crystal tree first. Good. Then I made a small planting. Start with the feces. Then put this water inside the tree of the tree. I put nearly 5, as well as iron and glass, in the locker. Then the small aquarium containing the waste snow mountain lake was placed on the wooden foundation. Then made a small aquarium. The gel worm that was grabbed casually when coming back was put into it. Waking up the next day, I first checked my body attributes. My strength has now reached 10. The evaluation has become a healthy and transcendent one. Then now my little bit of strength. I can easily handle a 100-kilogram heavy spiked underbrush suit. Then I checked the status of the ruined coral again. Now all of them are alive. I just put my mind at ease. I discovered my current self with the discovery of a question. Then I can nest one by one. I quickly thought of a good way. That is like killing the hairy-headed worm as before. It has a large amount of blood. One is enough to feed all the waste snow coral polyps. Then my gaze turned to another small aquarium. The gel inside can make hemostatic gel. If injured by other large creatures afterwards, bleeding control gel can immediately play a strong role in restoring life. Then I grasped how strong my restored abilities are now. Placed in a small aquarium. After that, just patiently wait for its recovery situation. Then I walked down to the foundation to check on the golden seaweed that I had been thinking about. And as soon as I got close, I noticed it had obviously grown taller, and the whole body began to flicker with a faint light. At this moment, my emotions couldn't help but become excited. After all, the fruit it touches can increase strength by 5 points, if the production of the sea armor requires his fibers even more. Therefore, how important is the seaweed of gold? After calming down a bit, I have come to the place where watermelons are planted again, the seeds that were just planted a few days ago. Now I have actually come into contact with basketball-sized fruits. I couldn't help but be amazed. The growth hormone of the world was patted with a hand. I made a thumping sound. It is obvious that it will mature completely in a short time. Check everything after it's done. Time is also approaching the stage of eating. So I moved to the relatively safest inner side of the foundation, put on all the defensive equipment properly, then opened the drawing interface. Click to make an iron big knife. 3 iron nails plus a piece of wood instantly transform into blue light. A 1-meter-long iron big knife was formed in front of me. I held it with one hand and felt the weight. Then I found that although I had already become an adult with 10, can only make simple slashing, and the burden on the wrist is not small. So I tried to hold the knife with both hands, swung a few more times again. However, it feels very out of place, very awkward. Then I was an ordinary person in my past life. Not a big deal either. Then I also need time on hand. Wow, wow, wow. At this moment, the sound of the sea surging came from the stone. I immediately collected my thoughts, carefully observing the movements in the water, and it is always a level of danger. But this time, the meal did not bring any dangerous creatures. The next 2 times were the same. It seems that my luck is good today, but he just doesn't have such good luck. I am a person whose hands have increased a lot. Then it reached 500,000 people. The ferocity of the spearhead worm is still something that many underdeveloped survivors cannot withstand. Then I started to transport seaweed into the digestion pool. During this period, Zhang Haitao also encountered an attack from the Mao To Ro Chong, so I gave him a whole set of spiked gear, plus the method I told them. Therefore, we successfully solved the hairy caterpillar. After that, he told me about this matter, and expressed gratitude to me. I immediately hurried him to get rid of the corpse of the fuzzy caterpillar after I heard it. Then the blood was placed into the small aquarium where the ruined coral is located. The seawater inside quickly changed color. The coral polyps in the ruins have also become excited, started to continuously absorb seawater. Then I took out a piece of seaweed from the locker, thrown into the gel-like flatworm as their food. After everything is done, I found that the watermelon has also fully ripened, so I immediately took it off. Cut into pieces, sitting on the ground, started chopping. I had thought about planting watermelons on a large scale before, achieve complete self-sufficiency, not worried about food and drink. But he at least needs the area required for 20 to 30 small planting boxes. Currently cannot allow reasonable placement at all. Although with the increase of distance these days, not necessarily the space has already had some, but I want to reasonably plant large areas of watermelons. I estimate that it will take at least until the space grows to 100 square meters. Then I sent a portion of the watermelon to Zhang Haitao, and then remembered Chen Xin. I have pondered over it before. This world has the existence of communication channels for trading. Then there will definitely be the emergence of teams and gangs, so I plan to develop my own team. Therefore, Chen Xing was invited. This woman is very shrewd, not necessarily able to become friends. Working together may be a good choice. At this moment, I think it's time for this woman to pledge her allegiance. So I sent her a message. Miss Chen, the drawings you have recently traded for, shouldn't we submit a form to the team? Chen Ming obviously made me stunned. Mr. Zhao, I joined the team not only without any benefits, and you want to take one of my blueprints as soon as you come up. Contributing to the team is what one is supposed to do, and this is also the foundation for us to build trust. Then flip it over again. I said it in the end. Miss Chen, if you think what I did is excessive, our team can also not be established. Chen Xin became nervous immediately upon seeing this. He clearly knows that the resources in my hands are currently the masters of this world. Then I will establish a group. The group has not developed as much as I have alone. Then decided to make a pledge of loyalty for my loss. Just like that, I picked up the drawings in her hand. One of the drawings, called Shijiwanbo, immediately made me think of some ruins. The powder needs to be ground with effort to be produced, and an important part of production is having a few. So I decisively made a choice about Chen Xin. He didn't say much, directly initiated. Then I publish a watermelon. He immediately asked how I obtained it, obviously a bit surprised. Hey, I grew it myself. If you also want to be able to plant by yourself later, then just make a good contribution to the team. I know this woman is different from Zhang Haitao. Zhang Haitao is very simple. With diligence, he can do things for me. But the morning star needs to be driven by interests. After the conversation ends, I then made 10 of them through grinding. Plan to grind out the ruins powder. The clearer it is, the better. At this moment, the seawater in the aquarium that was previously stained by the blood of the bristleworm has become clear again. Clearly, everything has been absorbed by the ruins of the coral. Come, the body of this blood coral seems to have grown a little bit. As long as what needs to be provided, the growth rate of the ruined coral will be faster. I then unhesitatingly broke off a small piece, put into the stone pot, fresh food crushed. Then they started grinding in circles. I don't know what to grind to. Then it can only be ground as finely as possible. Not sure how long has passed, the system's prompt sound suddenly appeared in my mind. Obtain a small portion of boiling blood coral powder. After taking, physique increases by 30 minutes, strength increases by 5. Speed plus 5, accelerate injury recovery. Can only be taken once a day. I was instantly overjoyed. The effect is too amazing. Currently, my strength has increased to 10, but wearing a more than 100 kilogram heavy spiky krill suit, taking action still imposes some burden on the body. Therefore, the 10-minute boost from this blood powder is simply a lifesaver for me. Excitedly, I plan this is just its effect, so it all poured into the mouth. Drank another mouthful of mineral water and swallowed it down. Ding gains a physique increase of 3, strength plus 5, speed plus 5. I immediately felt my whole body's blood boiling. The skin also begins to turn slightly red. A sense of unprecedented power instantly filled the whole body. Then I immediately checked the character attribute panel. Strength 15 points. The speed has reached an extraordinary 19 points. Then hurriedly put on the full set of spiked armor. I came holding the wooden one, my big knife, although I can still feel the heaviness of my body. But the burden is obviously much less than before. At this moment, under this heavy pressure, I ran flexibly for the first time. However, I did not clearly feel the speed at 19 dude. It should be suppressed by weight. So I took off the entire set of spiked armor, ran happily in the enclosed space. Now my speed can definitely surpass the world record for sprinting in my past life. Because the system prompt sound rang again, 10 minutes have passed. Strength reduced by 5, speed reduced by 5. The effectiveness of waste powder enhancement disappears. At this moment, I'm completely following through. I now have everything together every day. Now I can use it once every day. Now there is a negative weakening effect after the increase. I have now passed the dangerous stage of eating. Otherwise, in my current state, if you encounter any aggressive creatures, I'm afraid I don't even have the strength to wield a knife. Next, recover during this period of weakness. I feel like fruit cans have appeared on the wooden foundation to supplement the sugar, and casually sent it to Officer Zhang Haitao. He recovered quickly. Brother Wen, thank you so much. I just killed a caterpillar. It has consumed a lot of time. No need. I have now eaten canned food to replenish. Here it comes, still languid in color. My eyelids are so tired that they start fighting. This makes me can't help but sigh. The after effects of the powdered blood coral are really too strong. But now I just go to sleep directly, because there is still more than an hour until it will swallow the first material of the sky. But to divert attention, I then began to focus on driving. I don't know if the hemostatic gel made with gel worm also needs to use substantial wave. An hour has slowly passed. I feel like I came to the first suppression of today. I also put on a full set of spiked armor and entered a state of readiness for battle. This time, a mussel-skinned fish came into the water. I breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing this. Wait until the seawater is completely drained. I just jumped down to deal with the powerless, clean-skinned fish. Then retracted the spiked armor and opened the supply box. Ding. I was stunned to obtain a gold mine. Encountered dangerous creatures for 2 days, but not much. The chance of obtaining ore is quite high. I don't know which sea area we have already swum to now. Then I plan to see how the gel worm that I cut in half before is doing now. So I came to the aquarium where they are raised, found that the seagrass has almost been eaten, and the number of gel worms actually became 11. Only 2 of them are half the size of the others. I am somewhat surprised. Did the one I cut in half before now become 2? What a recovery ability this is. Not right. To be precise, it should be regenerative ability. Then I can only catch a small little glue bug. Then I prepared to verify my abilities in the pot. Then, break this rubber surface. The body of the jelly bug. After all, it is a living worm. Therefore, I think it is somewhat cruel, but there's nothing that can be done. According to the introduction of gel-like planarians, hemostatic gel is something that needs to be used on the body. I have not, because it won't show any bloodiness. Then the jelly bug inside turned into a lump of sticky gel. Obtain hemostatic gel quantity blood. Apply the hemostatic gel to the wound, then to the immediate hemostatic effect. I can speed up the healing of wounds. I suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Coagulation gel is really made this way, and its effect is also very significant. Previously, the hairworm had bitten a blood hole in the stomach wall. Fresh blood keeps flowing out. I didn't have any way at that time. Can only use a light ball bug to block the wound. Otherwise, you'll have to watch the stomach wall continuously bleed. And now with the hemostatic gel, if there is again some organism that bites the stomach body amount, then can timely provide. Thinking of this,
这条凝胶涡虫实在太少了，于是将其余9条体型大的凝胶涡虫全部切成了2。
to increase their quantity, then took out 2 servings of seaweed from the locker, put into the small aquarium. Then I put this hemostatic gel into the storage cabinet. Then divide the just now prepared gelatin into 3 portions. Set up to the trading channel. Still using it to trade for food illustration fragments that accelerate growth. Now let's see. I have already collected 6 pieces. Only 4 more pieces are needed to complete a full encyclopedia. So I simply made a few fishbone knives and continued to put them on the trading channel. Also used to trade fragments. I plan to collect everything at once now. Currently, in the eyes of other survivors, the fishbone knife completely belongs to the top-tier food. Therefore, doing this is as is. However, we are not considering the gains and losses in it now. After that, as expected, a fishbone knife was traded as soon as it was put on the shelf. Immediately after that, not much longer. Then went out to trade for leather and meat. I finally gathered them all.
一起了，然后我从储物柜中拿出了之前收集。
The 4 fragments in my hand were put together. At this moment, a prompt sound echoed in my mind. Illusory Leviathan. Accelerate growth food illustration fragments collected. Can they be synthesized? I chose one without hesitation. A fragment emits blue light in front of me, gathered into a screen. The food of 5 types of crucian carp is recorded above. The first type is the fruit grown by the survivors themselves. Feeding 5 tons can increase growth rate by 10%. The second to the 5th types are flying crane kelp, bamboo slip sea, golden silk seaweed. The golden king has long needed to feed 10 tons to increase the growth rate of the crucian carp. After reading the introduction on the illustrated guide, I am a whole person with these 5 kinds of food. I can't do any of them right now. Seemingly the simplest, just plant fruits in a small planting box by yourself. But where can I get this quantity of 5 tons? Currently, there is simply not enough space to place a sufficient number of small-scale plantings. Of the remaining 4 types, I have never heard of 3 of them. This makes me unable to help but smile wryly. But it can't be said to be completely fruitless. At least I will encounter the food above in the future. I can recognize it immediately. Then I was thinking about whether to create all kinds of possible implementations, as long as I sell small planting boxes in the World Channel. Then other survivors have a type of water planting. This amount of 5 tons can be said to be effortlessly produced. Then I can buy a large amount. But the problem is that I don't want to distribute the small planting boxes right now. Therefore, I need to find 1,000 people who will do as I instruct. They must ensure that the message will not be spread, but this fact is too difficult to accomplish. This just happens to be a private message that was sent over. Hello, I just organized a union with more than 1,000 union members. Our president. I can also win your favor. I was suddenly taken aback, and then asked, can the world system now form unions? Not that. We are our own one. Otherwise, we can all do it together, one by one. We can develop faster only if we unite. I see. Thank you for your invitation. However, I don't want to join any organization right now. This way I can refuse. This group organized that I will continue to appear in many meetings, inviting me to be the vice president. But I still refuse all of it, because the union is spontaneously formed in this way on the plate of the world system. All rely on member recommendations. I feel very unreliable, and if I am willing, I can completely establish one myself. However, I also think that our union is indeed a very good way to survive. Resources from multiple people can be disponible for some valuable drawings, can sell to each other more cheaply in the union. But the premise of everything is that everyone must be able to walk. Otherwise, this is the newly released news. Do I also need to form a union? I don't, but I can in your name. However, the method of our group now is the one you proposed. I am still very prestigious in the World Channel now. I use what as a bargaining chip. The union of that Zuo Junyang is promoted using stone axe blueprints. At this moment, I can't help but be speechless. This woman always speaks in a roundabout way. Then we will speak plainly about the things here. Don't always think about tempting me so well. I used to your organization groups. However, our group photo rare. The strength of the fishbone blade can definitely attract many resource-rich survivors to join him. After saying this sentence, I began to ponder. I now have an iron sword. Giving the fishbone blade blueprint to Chen Xing is also not impossible, and I always have this suspicious and paranoid will, not believing that pulling him into the group has any meaning. Okay, can give drawings with ancient people, but you have to return it to me every night, which I also didn't expect. Okay, I didn't find you for the materials I made, after all. I just want to show those who joined the union. Let them have a little hope. I just didn't expect that, Boss Joe, you really agreed, and also obtained better drawings than estimated. We are a group. Every day I want to study myself, manage your union well. I will give you a reward. Just like that, I sent the fishbone blade to Chen Xing. The conversation also comes to an end, and time passes, just a little bit. He successfully established a guild called Survivors. The conditions for joining the union are basically to submit 300 basic materials. But even so, many people are still eager to join, and at this moment, I am putting on my armor. The qualified ones have arrived. In my opinion, a good one. Then we are now also adding the union in front of our names. Of course, this has a very big drawback. That means anyone can casually change union members to impersonate union members. Therefore, this requires the president to record each member's avatar. The name can be changed, but the profile picture is fixed. The system interface has a built-in camera function. After taking a screenshot, you can save and record the avatars of these people. And Chen Xing also stipulated that joining the association requires publicly sharing one's own print resources, convenient for everyone to share. And he also took screenshots of all these drawings and information. Then send it to me. I started to flip through it after I received it. However, it was found that most of the drawings were of little value. and both the wooden sword and wooden shield blueprints belong to the weakest blueprints. It's not that my second supply box came today, and this time I have brought many organisms in here. Therefore, I couldn't help but feel nervous. And finally, the sea calmed down and receded. Found out that it was actually 3 clean-skinned catfish. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then walked down, opened the new supply box to obtain the diving suit blueprint. I wash it directly. No wonder 3 came all at once. It turns out it was sent to me for making a diving suit. Next, I will use the drawings. Making a wetsuit requires 5 parts of compressed fish skin, 20 minutes per piece, so I used a sharp point to completely peel the skin off 3 fish, then clicked on production. 220 points flew out of the locker along with 2 pieces of fish skin. 3 fish skins in front of me simultaneously for clarity, then a diving suit that has not absorbed an appearance. I suddenly brightened up. So the ocean came out in a circle. A sudden appearance of something that hasn't been received is me getting up and taking a look around. The golden seaweed has grown 10 centimeters taller. I added a few pieces of fecal gel to the rock semen place. The flatworm has also turned into 19 wastewater. Coral polyps have not been able to absorb blood, but seems a bit listless. Not long after, the fish began to eat. When the seawater flows in, I found only 2 sunball protozoa in the water. There are no other dangerous creatures. So I clicked to make the barrel blueprint that I traded for earlier. So I clicked on the coral, changed the seawater, but just when I was about to scoop up water, something suddenly flashed on the surface of the water. I hurriedly checked my surroundings, but didn't find any foreign objects, but still retreated to the side of the foundation. There is no more. So after that, I still had no abnormalities, so I thought it must be that I was overthinking. Then walked down, picked up the sunball bug, and placed it on the wall to increase brightness in the space. So I planned to start transporting seaweed. Suddenly heard a sound cutting through the air behind. Turning my head to take a look, I found a vague residual shadow in front of me. The next moment, my chest armor was pierced. Blood is still flowing from the chest.